Mom is in a community now, and we're really understanding that if there's any kind of cognition challenges, mom does need help getting to the dining room. Turning left or right, or getting on the elevator, and what floor am I
Mhm.
on is too much.
Yeah,
It's not quality of life to stress somebody out with figuring out what button am I supposed to push. And you might be
good
there at
point.
noon on one day, and mom pushed the button just fine. But at 8 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, wasn't synapsing as well.
Right, right.
Or mom or dad, and this is universal, can pull it together for the people that they want to please or not be a burden to.
Yeah,
They really, as a family member, need to listen to the people who are caring for your mom in and day out, who are the professionals.
yeah.
You have to have an element of trust there.
Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show.
And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And I am here again with Daphne Davis as a 6-part series talking about the path of taking care of a loved one. Are you ready, or are you in denial about what's coming ahead? And, Daphne, welcome back to the show. We've talked about paperwork in our last segment. And, um, people, paperwork is like, okay, so we have these documents, right? But now the big piece happens, finances. How do you pay for care? And care is so expensive. um, what is happening out there, and I think that there are resources that families don't even know about.
Well, we have to get a little bit creative right now, and just doing a little bit of research on my own, the cost of care is the number one concern that families
Mhm.
have right now.
Yeah,
And behind that is abuse of elders. So money is really a big deal in terms of how do we access money? How do we plan for these times? And there's an element of planning that I hope our listeners will hear and know that, you know
hmm
what, I can't wait until I'm, 70, 75 years old to think about this. It really is the sweet spot about 55 to 60 that you should be thinking about this in terms of considering even long-term care insurance. For
yeah,
most people, that is the sweet spot to be looking at it in terms of maximizing your buying power with your estate.
yeah,
But having resources and hearing the shock of the cost of care is where I see shoulders drop, where I see families lose hope. The twinkle goes out of their eye, and they're like, we can't afford that.
yeah,
And so some of the resources that may not be known, first of all, let me broadly state the only insurance that pays for custodial care is long-term care insurance.
right.
Your Medicare basic health insurance does not pay for custodial care,
No,
meaning custodial care means the actual bathing, toileting,
right.
transferring, helping somebody out of a chair, cooking for them, doing their laundry. None of that is paid for by anything except long-term care
Mhm.
insurance.
Right.
And so just know that up front. Be ready for that. A lot of people ask me, Doesn't Medicare cover any of this?" The only time Medicare covers for things in a community of care is when it's a medical service,
Right.
such as the most common ones are physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy.
hmm
Absolutely, your Medicare will pay for that, but they will not care for helping mom get up out of her
Yeah.
chair.
And it won't pay for the other side of it. People think that long-term care will pay for your rent in assisted living.
Yeah, it
Um,
does not.
that is kind of, I think, a misnomer as well, is it not?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And so it long-term care pays for care. Long-term
hmm
care insurance pays for care. So it's not what the rent is of the
hmm
community, the apartment rent or the room rent. That's
Or
not it.
community fee.
No, it doesn't pay for any of that.
Right.
It pays for the care. So
Yeah.
just be prepared for that when you're planning and making
Yeah.
arrangements.
So I'm going to regress a little bit because obviously our listeners, they're going, well, what's the difference between rent and care? If you go to assisted living, those are actually two separate, I guess, pieces.
Entities. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, very often when you first start talking to somebody at an assisted living, and that's the large apartment building with individual apartments, at assisted living, they're going to quote you rent rates.
Hmm.
And that rent rate covers meals, transportation, outings, activities,
Right.
very often. Very
Hmm.
often, there's all utilities, the
Hmm.
basics of living in a community, in an apartment. It does not cover, that number does not cover what's unique to your mom or dad that happens inside the apartment.
Right. Or anything involving health care or you know,
Medication
medication
management.
management. And don't they charge differently? Because every company's different. Some is on a point system, some do a hourly
Mhm.
rate. I mean, I know that there's different ways in which they spread it out.
That's correct. What I can tell you is within a given city or a community, usually the cost of care is going to average out to be about the same from building to building.
Yeah.
It is how do they calculate it? That's
Right.
the variable. And so, having escorts to the dining room, having somebody come in to put TED hose on, having somebody do bathing, how many times a week is the bathing? That is all the care costs. That's the
Yeah.
things that are unique to your loved one's wishes or
Right.
needs.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and that can be a variable from month to month. So
Yeah.
it's based on the amount of
Mhm.
time that someone, a caregiver, spends with your loved one.
And
So,
also, um, there are what we call care conferences where you're reassessed.
mhm.
Um, e- so if someone is living in an assisted living community, like you said, it could change based on a reassessment. How does that happen, and how is the family involved in that?
So let's just start from the very beginning. My particular way of thinking about this is I would rather have someone go into a community, and we're going to stick with assisted living right now.
Right.
Go into assisted living with a higher level of care. If there's an area that, well, sometimes mom can, get dressed in the morning and sometimes she can't.
Yeah.
And when someone moves in, I say, let's have the support for her to get dressed. Let's
Agree.
help her be successful. And it's easier to reduce the cost of care, to reduce the level of care that
Hmm.
mom needs, rather than in a week's time have to add it on. And I'm going to speak to the family right now. Your intentions are spot on. Your heart is in the right place, but you don't see sometimes your loved one with the eyes of reality. Please
Good
hear
point.
hear my heart. I'm not taking anything away from all of your family caregivers out there, but
Hmm.
you see them differently than professional eyes. And
Yeah.
professional eyes are here to help your mom have the highest quality of life as possible, still keep her independence, but not stress her out because she doesn't always get her arm in the sleeve, or it's hard for her to pick out something in the closet to wear because there might be some
Yeah.
condition issues. Set someone up for success. So I tend to have people start higher than lower. And usually within 2 to 3 weeks, there's another care conference, and the realities of life are unfolding.
Yeah.
Mom is in a community now, and we're really understanding that if there's any kind of cognition challenges, mom does need help getting to the dining room. Turning left or right, or getting on the elevator, and what floor am I
Hmm.
on is too much.
Yeah.
It's not quality of life to stress somebody out with figuring out what button am I supposed to push. And you might be
Good
there at
point.
noon on one day and mom pushed the button just fine. But at 8 o'clock in the morning for breakfast wasn't synapsing as well.
Right. Right.
Or mom or dad, and this is universal, can pull it together for the people that they want to please or not be a burden to.
Yeah.
They really, as a family member, need to listen to the people who are caring for your mom day in and day out, who are the professionals.
Yeah.
You have to have an element of trust there. So with that, the care conference comes and they pull everybody together, the decision makers, primarily of the power of attorney, and they say, this is what we're seeing, and we recommend this. And you know what? Mom really doesn't need escorts anymore. She's got the lay of the land. But we're seeing that 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we need to have one on one with her.
Yeah.
That she's done with her nap and we need to help her get out of bed or out of the chair. She's a little groggy. We've had a fall. Let you know about it. This would
Sure.
be our suggestion. And then you as the family get to say yes or no. I highly recommend asking for more information if you're leaning toward no, but the professionals there, their values are your mom having a quality life with little to no stress,
Yep.
and she's safe.
Yep.
Nobody
That's
wants
the
anything
thing
to
I
happen.
think that sometimes people lose sight of. They think, "Oh, I don't want to spend too much of mom's money," right?
Mm.
So I tend to think, well, she's been doing I remember I'd say, "Well, she's been living independently now, so let's bridge her into care." Where really what I was skewed in my thinking. And you are absolutely right on. Give her everything that she needs to be successful and to be comfortable. It's comfort, it's security, it's safety. And that's the thing I think that, working with a professional like you are is a huge thing.
Just reducing the cortisol and adrenaline in someone's body.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the people just relax when they know they don't have to worry.
Yeah.
You're going to get pushback from mom or dad that says, "I can dress myself."
Yeah. Yeah.
Dad,
Absolutely.
I know most often I think you do a great job. And when
Mm-hmm.
you can, you know what? They're just going to stand there or they're going to give you your privacy, but
That's
at least
okay.
we know that everything's going right
Yeah.
every day.
So obviously the cost of care is an issue.
It is.
Um,
So that's where it's generated from. And
right.
that cost of care and the adjustments that are made do have to be signed off by you. They're not just random. They need
Right.
to let you know about them, and you get to be a part of that decision-making process.
As the power
So
of attorney.
as a
Yeah.
power of attorney, that's correct. And so when you're planning for this, be thinking about, and we're going to move into this in our next session, but be thinking about here, I'm going to give you a broad list: reverse mortgages, life settlement, aid and attendance, um,
Medicaid.
savings,
Yeah.
Medicaid. Know what your state offers for Medicaid. What are the rules about Medicaid? How do
Mm-hmm.
you qualify for Medicaid? There's various ways that we can do some funding.
Mm-hmm.
Bend down, moving into some place that will accept Medicaid. You have
Mm-hmm.
a pot of money now.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's not going to last a lifetime. Work with a professional who can
Yeah.
help you maximize the buying power of your loved one's estate.
And the good news is there are vehicles financially. So if one partner needs care and you're afraid you're going to lose the house,
It's
there are
not going to
actual
happen.
setup, things called like special needs trusts, which we have content on our website about that you can actually put your loved one inside a trust so that the rest of the assets for the spouse is still handled. And I think that's one of the things that scares people to no end, like, I'm going to lose my house. No, you're not.
No, you're not going to lose your house. Even if you're on Medicaid, you have a right to a house and a car and X amount of
Yeah,
money. And then that changes from state to state, but
right.
that's there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
destitute yourself.
So
So
before we end this segment, let's just do a quick review of each one of these.
let me go
Again,
through them real quick.
yes,
Reverse mortgages have a place, and that's for
they
someone who
do.
wants to stay in their house. You have to live in your house to have a reverse mortgage. But if somebody wants to stay in their house and all of their assets are tied up in the house, then
Mm-hmm.
talk to a good broker about reverse mortgages and find out how does that work. It's literally, I'm going to put it in layman's terms, a loan against the house to yourself.
Yeah.
You're just getting your equity up front, still living in your house, not selling your home.
And it's
That's
not, you don't
roughly
have to pay a
said.
mortgage payment anymore. If
No.
you're, so it not only gives you money, but you don't have to pay a mortgage.
Mhm. So there's lots of details that you need to talk to the professionals
Mm-hmm.
about, but this is a general overview of when you
Mm-hmm.
want to stay in your home, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna die in my house,
Mm-hmm.
then look at this as an option. Or
Right.
if you have a spouse that needs care,
Yeah.
you can stay in the house, the spouse can move out. You
Yeah.
are still there and you can access the equity of your home. So that's one of them. Aid
Okay.
and attendance. It's if you have served, if either if the person who's needing the financial
Mhm.
support has served during wartime 1 day and has honorable discharge.
Hmm.
Roughly, this changes, but roughly about $130,000 or less in your estate, then you can make application for aid and attendance. Currently, the money is roughly about $2,500 a month for the vet and
Right.
about $1,400-$1,500 a month for the spouse.
Right.
So that's another avenue to tap into.
Hmm.
When you go to your VA people and they go, don't know what you're talking about, don't be surprised. This
Yeah.
this is a different kind of avenue, but it's
Hmm.
available for all
Hmm.
veterans.
Yeah.
Medicaid. Medicaid changes from state to state. In the state of Washington, we've just had an increase in the baseline. It's been $2,000. You have to have $2,000 or less to your name within any 30 days. I've heard rumor that it's gone up to $2,700, but I need to confirm that. So make sure you check with your state. You need to have two activities of daily living, transferring,
Requirements.
toileting, dressing, etc.,
Bathing.
or
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a diagnosis of dementia.
Right.
So before you can even qualify for this financial benefit,
Hmm.
it goes through the state that you live in, and it's federal monies, but it's managed by the state, and you qualify based on the state's
Hmm.
qualification things. There's a spend down in many communities. All communities do not accept Medicaid funding.
Right.
Many will say, if you look at a spreadsheet of or a resource of some kind of communities, they'll say, yes, we accept Medicaid, but they may not accept Medicaid from day one, or they have what we call as a spend down. So there's a given amount of time, usually it's anywhere from 1 to 3 to 5
Hmm.
years, is a spend down where you have to pay from your private funding source before they will convert to Medicaid.
Correct.
And this
Yeah.
is where you need to talk with professionals, elder law attorneys, financial planners, someone
Hmm.
like myself to help you maximize the buying power. And this is where you have to think about, do I want to move multiple times?
Hmm.
Do I want to? I have a disease process, or, my body is in such a state that I know I'm going to need help with,
Right.
ambulation or something. Be wise about your first place that you choose because you have to start over in your spend down if you move to a different community.
Exactly.
And so you may have spent, a year and a half at one community and now they don't do two-person transfers and your legs aren't working anymore.
Hmm.
And now you have to move someplace that's going to do a two-person transfer and they're going to say, "I'm sorry, your private funding did not, and I'm going to say this crassly, did not go to our budget in our new, the new building. You have to start over with day one." So it's really important to have people guide you on a financial level.
Yeah. Yeah. And then life settlement.
Life settlement is kind of a new thing for me, but it's tapping into your life insurance, any type of life insurance, and having a person who specializes in life settlements, and that a new person, an entity, a company becomes the beneficiary, and they maximize through investments the power of your insurance policy being able to give you back money before you've passed away.
Right. Right.
And then you
So
have monies to use for your care
yeah.
or
And
whatever.
or and you can use life settlement if you want to make modifications in your home to stay there. You can use it. And a lot of times I know that we've just recently done an interview with Rob Haney. So if you go on our YouTube channel, you can get all kinds of information on life settlement because a lot of people don't know what it is. And I think one of the things that would be really important is that, you know, I think one of the things that you've said to me before, Daphne, which is so important, is the fact that there are a multitude of resources, and nobody's going to lose their house. Nobody's going to, we got you. And there's other types of low income senior programs, different types of care resources if you meet the qualifications. And I think those are some things too that we can look at.
I want to go back to the idea of you're not going to lose your house. And
Yeah.
sometimes people get a little twisted on this. When
Yeah.
you're on Medicaid and you do have a house and it's not for you who's living in the house, but it's for someone else, there's different rules.
Right.
But if you are the sole person living in your house and your state allows for you to put your house on the market and you qualify for Medicaid in all other areas until the sale of your house,
Right.
having a lien against your house is not a bad thing from the state. They have put the money up front
Absolutely.
for you to be able to receive the care when you need it. It does
Hmm.
not matter that there's going to be a lien against your house for the amount of monies
Hmm.
that the state spent on your care.
Hmm.
It is in essence, in layman's terms, it's like a bridge loan.
Yes,
They're
it is.
helping you out of a situation right up front.
Mhm.
As a consumer, I would say thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And on that, I'm just going to throw up too. There are organizations that actually provide bridge funding for you to sell your house and move into senior living. So that's a whole other piece because a lot of people say, "Well, how do I even pay to get into the senior living until I sell my house?" There's organizations out there that can help you.
Absolutely. There's realtor organizations. You and I have a mutual good friend that does a great job at that.
Sash
At
services, they're
Sash,
amazing.
yes.
In state of
Rebecca
Washington.
Bowman is just a phenomenal
She's
person to help
amazing.
people. And so really work with somebody who can tap you into the resources. They expect you to
Absolutely.
know them.
Yes,
Don't
yes,
put that
yes,
pressure on yourself.
yes. So we're going to switch gears in our next segment. We're going to talk to the family caregiver. Is that correct?
Yes.
On
Yes.
navigating the process and getting out of denial, but also are you in denial about yourself and what you're taking on? And we'll be right back right after this. Did you know that you could discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.